And now from Washington, the Inside Scoop. All the news the government does not want you to hear. Now, here's your host on the Inside Scoop, Mark Levine.
Came and surrounded the school. Began shooting. The police tried to come in. They couldn't come in. Finally, they had to come in through a window, and by then the girls were dead. Now, I don't think anyone can really criticize the police in that situation. I don't think they did anything wrong. But I want you to imagine perhaps the situation changing a little bit. Imagine that the person was shooting children and the police have cordoned off the place. They've surrounded it with yellow tape. They've said, no one come in to this very dangerous situation. And what would you do if after the man had shot 10, 12 little girls, if hundreds of people had rushed the place, had gone in that schoolhouse? The police would try to stop them. Obviously, it's the right thing to do, but they go in and they rush the place. And then they start to walk out with the murderer in the middle of them. The police tell these people, disperse, get out of my way. There's a murderer in there. And the people don't move at all, and they rush and try to get the guy in a car. What do you do? What does a police officer do? Do you shoot, even knowing that the accomplices of the murderer might get shot? What is the appropriate thing to do? A similar situation happened in the United States in Waco. We know the rough outlines of it. There was David Koresh. He'd been amassing guns for some time. There were women and children there. And there was a standoff for a while. Finally, the government sent in a tear gas machine, and again, he proceeded to kill the people inside. But the difference, I would submit, is that when you have a man who takes people hostage, who don't want to be there, as most hostages don't, the police have to be more careful. But what do you do about people who are voluntarily hostages? People who run in and support the murderer's actions? What are they? Well, Israel has had to face exactly this dilemma. Recently, a number of terrorists, after killing 6 Israeli soldiers, bombarded themselves in a mosque. That in itself poses a problem. What do you do when a murderer escapes to a house of worship? But the people in the mosque let him in. And then they surrounded the mosque. They were under siege. Everything was calm. The men were shooting out of the mosque at the Israeli police, but they were in tanks. They were protected. Women came, hundreds of women, into the mosque. The terrorists dressed up as women, and they came out in this swarm. Of course, the Palestinian police did nothing about it. When Israel tried to shoot the terrorists, they killed some of the women that were protecting them too. What is the proper role? What do you think? Should murderers get away with murder just because they have accomplices that are willing to help them? Well, apparently the international community thinks so. And they strongly condemned Israel for trying to capture these murderers. What do you do when people aren't willing to play by the rules? One of the things the Palestinians have done, and they're very, very proud of this, by the way, and one of the reasons I'm bringing it up is because it came up on my radio show. People were condemning Israel for attacking these human shields. But a human shield is a voluntary human being. It's someone who says, I care so much about murder that I'm willing to risk my own life to protect a murderer. What would you do in that situation? What should be done? I want to hear from you. The toll-free number is 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. Before you call in, though, I want to play some video for you, some very disturbing video. And it has to do with the use of ambulances in Israel, in the Gaza Strip. Now, some say Israel should not attack ambulances. Well, that makes sense. Normally, ambulances are used to carry away wounded people. But just as the mosque is not being used for prayer in the Gaza Strip, so are ambulances being used to carry off bombs. And then how can you know who's safe? How can you know who to attack? Let me show you a video that was done in Israel just recently on the use of a United Nations ambulance. Let's show this video first here. For those of you on radio, I'm going to read to you what it says. A Palestinian ambulance is stopped. The driver is checked. Information exists that Palestinian ambulances are used to transport weapons and explosives. The driver's behavior seems suspicious. And those who are on TV are actually watching this. The radio, I'm afraid, you're just going to have to hear from me. The passengers and a young, quote, patient, unquote, are then removed from the ambulance. So the patient doesn't seem ill. Fearing booby traps, demolition experts use a robot. The patient, by the way, is a young child that was on top of the stretcher. Now they show the viewpoint of the robot. The robot is removing the stretcher that the child was on, who didn't seem to be very injured. The picture shows the robot, and it's suspected explosives are hidden in the ambulance's stretcher. So they pull the stretcher, the robot does, apart from the ambulance. They show the view of the robot, and lo and behold, hidden inside the stretcher, the robot removes a suspicious object to a safe distance. Again, you're looking at the video camera from the robot. The robot notices that the object is an explosive belt of the kind used by suicide bombers to kill innocent civilians in Israel. Here's a close-up of the explosive belt. You can see the explosives. The demolition experts safely detonate the belt. You see it explode. Now, I want you to think about this. Palestinian ambulances, under the guidance of the United Nations, are not carrying injured all the time. Many of the times, they're carrying explosives, as this video has just shown you. Now, what should Israel do? If an ambulance is coming, should Israel, one, leave the ambulance alone, and if it happens to have an explosive belt and they happen to kill 30, 40, 50 civilians, just say, oh, well, we're not allowed to look inside an ambulance. It's illegal under international law. When an ambulance is used as a weapon of terror, is it legitimate to explore inside that ambulance? I think it is. Let me show you another ambulance used in the way ambulance should never be used. Let me show that to you right now. This is an ambulance used in a drive-by shooting. Check this out. We're going to get it bigger on the screen for you here. Again, two ambulances. They look normal. Do you think Israel shouldn't stop? Watch how they do. That's a weapon fired from the ambulance. Now, here's the ambulance coming out. People walking along. Watch the ambulance. There's gunfire from the ambulance. Shooting at people. See the gunfire from the ambulance? The ambulance is going back and forth. People are shooting at each other. I wonder about the person who took the stand. Now, check the people with guns. They're entering another ambulance. UN and Red Cross. UN and Red Cross, watch the people with guns enter the ambulance. Top. So what is to be done when people don't fight fairly? What is to be done when people use ambulances for drive-bys, when they hide explosives in them? You've heard the criticism. In fact, later on in the broadcast, I can play for you some of the international criticism. Israel is checking every ambulance at the border. If an ambulance wants to come from Gaza into an Israeli hospital, they check it. They check it with robots first. Is that the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? I want to hear from you. I don't care what side of view you have on this. I want to hear from you because, you know, I was criticized today on the air on my radio show with people that said, how dare Israel check these ambulances. Ambulances, they carry injured. They shouldn't be checking ambulances. Well, what do you think? Let me show you one more clip. This is a clip of and let's see if we can get this on here. This is a clip of an ambulance with a hole in its middle. It's right through the heart of the Red Cross. And this was shown on a number of broadcasts as being Israel attacking, an innocent ambulance.
Two of its ambulances were deliberately struck by weapons in Kana.
We're going to make this larger for you. All right, let's get right to it. First of all, here's something interesting. This is Anderson Cooper. I just thought this little segment was...
On the Hezbollah side, it's really interesting. I was in Beirut, and they took me on this sort of guided tour of the Hezbollah-controlled territories in southern Lebanon that were heavily bombed. They're much cruder. Obviously, they don't have the experience in this kind of thing, but they clearly want the story of civilian casualties out. That is their what they are heavily pushing, to the point where on this tour I was on, they were just making stuff up. They had 6 ambulances lined up in a row and said, okay, they brought reporters there. They said, you can talk to the ambulance drivers. And then one by one, they told the ambulances to turn on their sirens and to zoom off. And people taking that picture, would be reporting, I guess, the idea that, these ambulances were zooming off to treat civilian casualties, when in fact, these ambulances were literally going back and forth down the street just for people to take pictures.
Keep all this context in mind, and keep the summer's bombshell blog revelations of widespread war photography in mind as well, as we move on to the events of July 23rd of this year. According to the Lebanon Red Cross, 2 of its ambulances were deliberately struck by weapons in Kana, Lebanon, while performing rescue missions. The international press, which has stubbornly ignored the prolonged exploitation of emergency vehicles by terrorists, went ape over the claims. They immediately suggested that Israel had deliberately targeted the vehicles. A hysterical report by ITV was typical. And note that the reporter was not at the scene, but relied on video of a local amateur cameraman and swallowed the ambulance driver's stories whole.
The ambulances were hit at around midnight last night as their crews transferred wounded civilians from one vehicle to another in a village east of Tyre.
We never intentionally target civilians or ambulances.
It's noticeable that one burst of fire struck the exact center of the cross on the roof of one of the ambulances.
We never intentionally target civilians or ambulances.
Because of the extreme dangers of the roads, journalists have not visited the scene. These pictures were taken by a local amateur cameraman.
Photos and accounts of the alleged ambulance targeting were disseminated widely by news wires, the BBC, the New York Times, and countless other media organizations. But bloggers have again raised pointed questions about what those photos really show. Internet investigator Zombie broke down the allegations in a massive online report last week. It was mentioned by Fox News' Brit Hume, but was otherwise ignored by the mainstream media. Here, for the lazy editors and ombudsmen who don't want to do their own homework, are the main claims and doubts raised. Claim number 1. An Israeli missile pierced the exact center of the Red Cross on the roof of one ambulance. Take a good look at this ambulance. Time magazine echoed ITV News in reporting that, quote, a missile punched through the roof of the vehicle and exploded inside, unquote. So did the Boston Globe, the New York Times, and NBC News. But is it true? The neat hole punched dead center in the middle of the roof is in exactly the same location that ventilation holes of other ambulances are positioned. Moreover, a missile explosion inside an ambulance would not leave the rest of the vehicle as intact as the supposedly targeted ambulance remained. These are photos of what really happens when Israeli missiles explode inside vehicles. Claim number 2. The attack happened on July 23rd. Look at the rust on the roof. I mean, look at it. Have Israelis found a secret ingredient to add to their missiles to make targets rust upon impact? To many bloggers, it appears obvious. The damage to the ambulance roof took place long before the date of the alleged Israeli strike. Claims number 3 and number 4. There was a huge explosion and intense fire inside the ambulance depicted here. Several media outlets, including Time and the Boston Globe, quoted ambulance driver Qasim Shalan describing a, quote, big boom, unquote, and big fire inside the vehicle. Well, look inside. The gurneys and seats are intact and barely damaged at all. Remember what missile explosions inside vehicles really look like. This does not belong. So, what do the media outlets who invade...
I'm going to stop it right there. I just want to give you an idea of the kind of propaganda that's going on and to encourage you to look and to think. And when we come back, I want to hear from you as to what, again, you think should be done in a situation where you've got known murderers trapped. Again, think of the Amish schoolhouse, maybe think of Waco, maybe think of the MOVE organization in Philadelphia, to give American context. You got murderers trapped in a building, the police cordoned it off, and a bunch of civilians rush the place. The police try to stop them, but they go in, and now they're coming out. Murder in their midst, they're going to make a getaway. What should the police do? 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. When we come back, I'm going to play some video of some propaganda training for children. We'll be right back after this.
Mr. DeBruzzo, I'm Ed McMahon, and we're signing up people for...
Yes,
yes, I am. Yeah. Miss Murphy, Ed McMahon. We're starting up... No.
Dreams really do come true.
Hombre, dinero.
No.
Yes,
Ed
con
McMahon.
I had it all set up on my computer.
Yes,
but now
Ed
I've got
McMahon.
to,
We're having our first
Ed
ever...
McMahon.
Yes. Tuesday night at the high school. We're starting up the neighborhood watch in this area, and here's all the information.
Stevie, get down here, please.
No, it's just
5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
No tango dinero. Neighborhood watch. We're having this neighborhood watch, the first one. Right.
Larry, put some pants on.
I'll come back.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Start a neighborhood watch. It's just one of the many ways you can help make America stronger. To find out how, call or log on for this free guide.
When I was young, my dad always told me to dream big and dream often.
My mom and dad were always my biggest cheerleaders.
I've been very fortunate to have parents that care, but some kids aren't so lucky.
That's why the Major League Baseball players trust for children.
Same with Volunteers of America, to help kids everywhere.
For more than 100 years, Volunteers of America has helped children, families, and many others rebuild their lives.
Our Share with a Child partnership wants you to give kids your time, guidance, and support.
Let's work together to give every child a chance. Find out how you can help a child dream big. Call 1-800-899-0089 or visit volunteersofamerica.org.
From Washington, back to the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. We're discussing the situation in the Middle East and really the ethical problems of it all. I mean, what is a proper government to do? Recently, Israel decided, and I think wrongly, not to attack known murderers when they're surrounding themselves with their accomplices, when women come out and treat them as human shields. So now, anytime anyone wants to kill or murder or shoot a rocket, kill a civilian, they just surround themselves by other civilians, and boom, they're home free. They're protected. Israel decided not to attack. I disagree. I think when you knowingly go and hook yourself up to a murderer, trying to protect that murderer, you are an accomplice and you're fair game. Let me show you the thing I talked about before about the women that were rushing the mosque. Here's live pictures of it. Well, not live, but pictures of it on the web. Let's play this.
It started with anger and with defiance. the women of Beit Hanun marching towards the mosque, marching towards Israel's guns. The first few shots didn't deter them. If anything, it seemed to encourage them. A few carried on up the road, trying to get past the Israeli soldiers. Then more shots. As they reach the edge of the pavement, 2 women fall to the ground.
I want to stop it for a second because it's interesting. The British broadcast doesn't give the context. This is not a peaceful demonstration. These are not people walking down ordinary streets. Recall what happened. A number of gunmen have come out. They've just shot 6 people dead. The army has followed them, and they're hiding in a mosque and shooting at Israeli police from that mosque. Okay? The women are now coming in to join the killers in the mosque. The British don't give quite the context. Let's watch more of the broadcast.
Israel's army says it targeted armed men it says were in the crowd. At one point a man is hit. In the footage we've seen, there's no evidence he was carrying a gun. Then the ambulance...
Now, isn't that a silly thing to say? So he didn't carry his gun on the way out. These men were dressed in women's clothing. They were dressed in women's clothing, surrounded by women. And the fact that he didn't carry a gun, that's what matters? I mean, if the people would just back off and let them capture the terrorists, it wouldn't be a problem. But I don't have sympathy for them. Now, listen, a lot of my listeners do. They called in. We had a whole discussion today. I want to know what you think. 888-488-MARK. I'll go back and play more of the clip.
Came to take away the women. She's a martyr, said this protester. Look how she died. The women still wanted to make it to the mosque to help the gunmen trapped inside. They poured over the earth defences set up by the Israelis. There was little the army could do to stop them. During the chaos, the gunmen escaped. This is why the army says it went into Beit Hanun, to try to stop Palestinian rockets being fired at Israeli civilians. The soldiers are still there this evening, surrounding the town. Well, what you can see there is smoke rising from the town of Beit Hanun. The Israeli army is still surrounding that town. What it says it's doing there is to try and stop Palestinians firing rockets out of Beit Hanun over here into Israel. But it's a strategy that at the moment is questionable because this afternoon there have been a number of rockets fired. As Gaza's injured arrived at hospital today, 2 very different versions of events began to emerge. The Israelis say what happened is proof that Gaza's fighters hide behind civilians. But to Palestinians, the women of Beit Hanun are already being hailed as heroes. Matthew Price, BBC News, on the Israeli-Gaza border.
Again, what should be done? What should be done? What would you do? Here you have Gaza Strip. People complained that Israel was occupying the Gaza Strip. People forgot, of course, that the Gaza Strip attacked Israel repeatedly. The Egyptian army did it, 48, 56, 67. Israel went in to protect its citizens. People complained Israel was occupying the Gaza Strip. So Israel left entirely, removed settlements, removed all its industry there. And what do? Immediately they go on the attack. They shoot rockets out to hit Israeli civilians. Israel comes in, they follow the rockets, they know who the people are, they run and hide in a mosque, they surround the mosque with tanks. They don't blow up the mosque. It's a historic mosque. They don't blow up the mosque. They simply order the men to come out. The men shoot, they try to shoot in the windows, and then what happens? Hundreds of women come in. They come in. The Israelis have even built earthen barriers. How much time did that take? I don't know. Built earthen barriers. They climb over the earthen barriers, and they go in. They come out. The murderers in tow, dressed in women's clothes. Israel tries very hard to shoot in between the women and just get the murderers. They do kill some of them, amazingly. And they also kill some women. I think just 2. Are they martyrs? Is Israel wrong? Was the United Nations right to condemn Israel's killing of the women? What would you do? What would you do if a man came into your house and killed your children and then escaped to his home and you come in with the police, and you surround the home. He shoots out at the police, and before the police can go in to take the man that killed your children, he brings his own children inside. They defend him. They're willing to die for their cause. Should they be allowed to die for their cause? I submit, and again, I know it's controversial. If you disagree with me, call in. I submit they should. I submit that when you help someone kill, and when you block and save them, it's just like driving the getaway car. You are guilty. Now, I do have more concern about the children. I have less concern for the women. They're adults. They know what they're doing. But I want to play for you some of the broadcasts of how they're using children. Well, watch just this very short clip of some terrorists using children as human shields. Let's make this clip large. I don't think there's any sound to this one. Look at them grab the children. Can you see it? Just pulling them out. They need a shield. So they grab a kid. Now these kids, they don't want to be shields. Let me watch that again. I want you to watch it. The kids are sitting there. You have gunmen. The boy's trying to run. I don't know whether that's his father saying go or not go. Grab the kid. They need a human shield. How do you fight against such people? And how can anyone defend their cause as just? Whatever you feel about Israel, whatever you feel about the Palestinians, we can discuss whether you think there should be a Palestinian state. I happen to support a Palestinian state. But the people of Palestine have voted in power Hamas. And Hamas uses their own children as shields. So to me, it doesn't matter what they want, really. How can you negotiate with people like that? How can you negotiate with people who take children and use them as body armor? 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. When we come back, I'm going to play some of the tapes they use to encourage children to join Hamas, to join the terrorist organizations. We'll be right back after this.
Me and Jenny were jumping on it. Mommy's gun fell on the floor. I was a cowboy. Bang, 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 bang. I said, Jenny, wake up, it's just pretend. But she wouldn't wake up. If you give me a fish...
If you give someone a fish,
you feed them for a day.
Teach someone to fish.
You feed them for a lifetime.
Give me a fish, and you'll feed me for a day. Teach me to fish, and you'll feed me for a lifetime.
Through Volunteers of America, you can help change lives in your community.
Hey, mister, studied algebra in school and got a better job than I could. You took the last couple.
Oh, no, mister. Stuck in an entry-level job because you only learned basic math. I don't have a boss riding my butt like you do, so you take it so you can get back to your desk.
You know, I probably should, but maybe Miss AP Calculus with the $200 haircut in the big office upstairs would like a cup.
Oh, no, Mr. What was your name again? Never mind, it doesn't matter. I'm too busy doing important things to care. I just came down for some sweet and stir.
You know, if my limited math abilities weren't keeping me from getting a better job, I'd quit this afternoon.
I don't blame you. But thank goodness you're stuck here because we really need someone to make the coffee.
From Washington, back to the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
For you, some of the propaganda to try to persuade children to join into Hamas, to join into the terrorist groups. I'm doing that as we speak, which isn't easy to do, but I'm doing my best. And I guess my question is, when is it proper to use children to fight a war? When is it proper to take a 7-year-old and to train them how to use Kalashnikov rifles, and to train them how to kill? Is it ever proper? We know that, for example, in Liberia, the ruler there, Charles Taylor, used to, after killing the children's parents, he would bring the children into a children's army. And it was interesting, the psychology. Apparently, when you kill a child's parents, he could get this devotion from the kids, from the orphans. I don't know what lies they told the kids, but to go and to fight and to kill. And the children were carrying weapons, and the opposing armies didn't know what to do. Do you shoot? If a 12-year-old points a gun at you, do you shoot? Well, if they're shooting you to kill, don't you have to? The amazing thing about all of this that I find is that they're using the humanity of Israel to attack Israel. I mean, this would never work in Egypt. This would never work in Saudi Arabia. This would never work in Iran because they just shoot everybody. It wouldn't be a problem. Instead, they're using children, they're using women because they know that Israel is reluctant. And indeed, Israel made today, I think, a very bad mistake when they said we're not going to shoot at the human shields. I disagree. I think Israel needs to be stronger and to shoot at the human shield. Now, let me make a clear difference here, because I know this sounds very extraordinary. I'm not talking about when they literally grab a child and stick it in front of them. That's a different thing. It's harder. Although I guess if someone's shooting at you and holding a child as a shield, and your life's at stake, maybe you have to shoot back. I don't know. But I'm really not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who are willing human shields. I'm talking about at least the adults, the women that willingly are sacrificing their life to protect the right to murder. But even these children, if I can get these video clips, we may have to take another break so I can get them for you. It shows that the parents themselves are willingly sacrificing their children. They're saying to their children, there's this one family that shows in one of these clips, they've lost 5 children, and they're training their 7-year-old to die as well. I mean, it's to even call these people children, what are they? They are weapons to their parents because they learn that they can be martyrs and that that martyrdom is a good thing. And so the children, for their parents, are just weapons. Do the Palestinians love their children? I don't know, because I keep seeing evidence that they don't. Now, I'm sure many Palestinians do love their children, but the ones that we see in these clips are sending their children out as weapons. Sending their children out to be right in front of bombs. What kind of parent could do that? When we come back, I want to show you some of these clips. We'll be right back after this.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promise.
Okay, hon.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promise.
What kind of man are you?
I'm a father.
Look here, my father was a father, and he smoked his brains out in the house.
Watch as he blows those smoke rings on my little red face.
You probably have asthma.
Asthma? Schmasma. I'm telling you, nothing's gonna happen to your kids. I swear.
Don't swear when you're lying. You know very well that thousands of kids get bronchitis, ear infections, and even pneumonia from their parents' cigarette smoke. And didn't you promise your little angels you'd smoke outside?
Hey, Daddy.
Those little devils are just so sweet.
Do the right thing.
Please, smoke outside.
Until you can stop, go out for your kids.
Take the pledge. Call 1-800-513-1157.
It is more than a trial by fire. It is a rite of passage, a challenge to join the elite. And if you succeed, if you can master your fear, outsmart your enemy, and never yield even to yourself, you will be changed forever. The few, the proud, the Marines.
From Washington, back to the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. We're talking about what's going on in Israel and in the Gaza Strip right now, and I'm really not discussing so much the politics of it. I mean, I support actually an independent Palestinian state. I certainly support an independent Israeli state as well. But my question is, why are the Palestinians putting their children in the front lines? Obviously, all parents aren't doing that, but the majority seem to be. Because on Palestinian television, remember, this is an elected government, so most people support this. Hamas, we've seen them put the children in front of them as human shields. Let me show you what's playing on Palestinian television. Let's go to it. Can you see it? It shows a flower, petal to the ground. It shows a child who looks very nervous. Shows a mosque. In fact, it looks like the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. It says, the beloved child has reached his design, getting the honor of martyrdom. He is never considered dead. He meets death for his country. Shows a cartoon of a child in a grave and a flower opening. Let me see if I can show you just one more clip of this kind of propaganda. And then I definitely want to get to the caller that's on the line. Let's show this, if we can. This is a clip, again, on Palestinian TV. They are the ones who did the Holocaust. Their knife cuts to the length and width of our flesh. They open the ovens for us to bake human beings. Shows a child that looks dead or dying. They destroyed the villages and burnt the cities. When an oven stops burning, they light 100 more ovens. Their hands are covered with the blood of our children. Again, this kind of propaganda. What good is it? Why can't the Palestinians try something that Martin Luther King did, that Gandhi did? March peacefully in the street for whatever they want, but stop using their children as weapons. 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. Mike in Northern Virginia, welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Mark, hello, Mark.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You must know December 15th and 16th. Does that ring a bell into your mind?
No.
Come on now. All right, let's get back.
Is that when Kana occurred? I don't know.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, I have some video from Kana.
Let's get back to this world, whether it's Bolsheviks or communists or Nazis or even people that are in the Middle East. We cannot use and should not use weapons to show the people that that is their way to protect their family, themselves. And we have a lot to look and learn about what has happened. Well, in my family, it's happened 60-some years ago. And I keep telling them, coming to the USA, we've provided the weapons, whether it was Palestine or whether it was Syria or all the countries, and including Israel. And people think that's their weapon of destruction. But on the same token, it's a way of relief to become even with those that kill our children.
Mike, I'm just trying to get your point here because I'm not sure. Are you agreeing with me?
I agree with you all the way through. You're doing a great job all the way through.
Okay.
But it has to be expanded. Okay.
Expanded to what? You're saying
next month.
United States weapons are going to too many people in the region? Is that what you're saying?
That's right, exactly right.
Well, I agree with you. I'll tell you, in Iraq right now, the scary thing is that the people that are attacking our troops are generally using our weapons. We supply the Iraqi police force, and the police force has a number of people in it that don't support the Iraqi government or our government, and then they use that to attack us. So yeah, we're flooding the area with weapons. We did it in Afghanistan trying to fight the Soviet Union. We're doing it right now in Iraq. You're absolutely right. I do agree there are too many weapons in the region.
And children, I play Santa each year. Santa is supposed to look into her eyes and ask him one question. Mother and father, those that brought them into this world. And you'd be surprised how many children around Christmas time will reach for a gun. And I look at their mentality. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Folks, if you want to call in, the toll-free number is 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. Before we go to break, I want to play just one more clip of, well, trying to encourage children to kill themselves for their cause. Let's play the clip. It says in Arabic, I am waving to you, not in parting, but to say, follow me. How sweet is the fragrance of the martyrs. How sweet is the fragrance of the earth. Is thirst quenched by the gush of blood flowing from the youthful body. How sweet is the fragrance of the earth. The boy cried, O Father, till we meet. Patriotic music, a young boy running, a woman singing. I will go with no fear and without crying. How sweet is the fragrance of the martyrs. I will go, Father, to my place in heaven. How sweet is the fragrance of the martyrs. And of course, there's pictures of cemeteries and carrying a coffin above head with the flag. Oh, Father, till we meet. It shows a little child playing with a kite and singing the glories of this child killing himself for the cause. Oh, Father, till we meet. Now, some would say I'm taking a very strong stand here, but I think that if people are using children to fight their battles for them, there shouldn't be a negotiation. Their cause cannot be just. It cannot be right to give children guns, to send children to kill themselves. Now, there are differences, and let me give you an example of, I think, the proper use of children, if you will. One of the famous incidents in the civil rights era occurred in Selma. There was a children's march. Martin Luther King peacefully marched hundreds of children. And of course, Bull Connor turned the fire hoses on them and injured a lot of children. I don't mind peaceful children marches. I think that's fine. I kind of prefer the parents do it, but all right. But giving a child a belt, a gun, a suicide belt? Think of the kid inside that ambulance. You saw the picture. He's inside the ambulance. Underneath his stretcher is a suicide belt. Do you think the child knows the suicide belt is even there? And then, what does the United Nations do? They complain. At Israel, how dare you check inside these ambulances? How dare you have checkpoints? I've heard people say, you know, it's so hard because the people in Gaza who want to work in Israel have to go through these checkpoints. Given their techniques, is it any wonder why? Is it any wonder why Israel has to build the security wall that it had to build? 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. Coming up at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to switch topics entirely and show you a Republican dirty trick in Maryland. I've got the pamphlet. I've talked about it before, and I want to show that to you. But if you want to call on that topic or this one, feel free to do so. 888-488-MARK. We'll be right back after this.
Bed. Me and Jenny were jumping on it. Mommy's gun fell on the floor. I was a cowboy. Bang, 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 bang. I said, Jenny, wake up, it's just pretend. But she wouldn't wake up.
If you give me a fish,
If you give someone a fish,
you feed them for a day.
Teach someone to fish.
You feed them for a lifetime.
Give me a fish, and you'll feed me for a day. Teach me to fish, and you'll feed me for a lifetime.
Through Volunteers of America, you can help change lives in your community.
Oh, hey, mister, studied algebra in school and got a better job than I could. You take the last couple.
Oh, no, mister. Stuck in an entry-level job because you only learn basic math. I don't have a boss riding my butt like you do, so you take it so you can get back to your desk.
You know, I probably should, but maybe Miss AP Calculus with the $200 haircut in the big office upstairs would like a cup.
Oh, no, Mr. What was your name again? Never mind, it doesn't matter. I'm too busy doing important things to care. I just came down for some sweet and start.
You know, if my limited math abilities weren't keeping me from getting a better job, I'd quit this afternoon.
I don't blame you. But thank goodness you're stuck here because we really need someone to make the coffee.
From Washington, back to the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. We've been discussing the use of children and women as human shields and what the proper response should be. And I want to play for you some Iranian propaganda. This is actually an animated film. Maybe it's very disturbing to you. So if you have children, they may not want to watch this. But this is an animated film shown on Iranian TV about Palestinian children and Israeli soldiers. Let's show the cartoon. Played October 28, 2005. Shows a mosque surrounded by barbed wire and blood. Soldier in boots. The Israeli flag set on fire. Another soldier with a gun. People shouting. Music in the background. Angry soldier. Children shouting death to Israel. The soldier marching on them. It's interesting that they shout death to Israel and not, Palestinian state or... But it shows the evil soldier, and he takes the gun, and the children are throwing stones, and he shoots the children. Now in this case, of course, the children aren't protecting a murderer. They're throwing stones. And obviously, it's clear what the goal of this film is. The goal of the film is to encourage children to attack soldiers. It shows a slingshot, crying child. He takes the slingshot from his dead comrade, the child. Although I don't know where the soldier is. You'd think he'd be there, but... And he takes his slingshot and aims it. And makes it look cool, I guess. In the way that animated cartoons always can. And he's going to kill the soldier with his rock. It becomes a grenade. Throws his grenade. Kills the soldier. Now here's my question. After making the soldier into a skeleton, what does all this solve? What good does it do? I mean, here Israel has left the Gaza Strip entirely. They can run their country. They can live in peace. They can control their lives. Why are they still attacking? You know, it's one thing to oppose an occupation, but they didn't say, you know, death to the Israeli occupier. Frankly, Israel has left Gaza. They just said death to Israel. So they show this animated cartoon. They try to get everyone very angry at it. But, you know, it's hard to know what good any of this does. 888-488-MARK if you want to call. 888-488-6275. I just think that propaganda, it shouldn't be involving children. I got a caller on the line, Sabby from McLean. Sabby, welcome to the Inside Scoop. Sabby, we've got you. I want to hear from you. Disagree, that's fine.
Hey, Mark?
Yes.
Well, I was just watching your program a few minutes ago. Right now, I'm not in front of my TV. So, but anyway, I agree with this. Many of the things which you said about the desperate measures those Palestinians resort to in order for their cause. But don't you think we should also think about the real root cause of the problem? I mean, even after, I agree that these desperate measures are hopeless, but there is an underlying issue here. There is an Israeli military occupation of a Palestinian land, which is going on and on for past almost 40 years now. It is one of the longest running brutal occupation in modern history.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Israel left Gaza. Can we agree that Israel, I mean, they didn't go back in until Gaza is now repeatedly shooting missiles into Israeli soil. When Israel left Gaza, why couldn't Gaza, now free from Israeli occupation, focus on building up itself, better schools, better sewers, using international aid, and living peacefully with Israel? And I would think if that happened, Israel would leave the West Bank as well.
Let's talk about the Gaza withdrawal. Besides what is presented in most of the mainstream media in the U.S., there is another story behind the Gaza withdrawal, which is that the Gaza withdrawal was basically an annexation plan on the West Bank. I mean, did anybody even mention where did those people who withdrew from Gaza, those settlers, where did those people go? They are now in West Bank.
But Savvy, listen to me for a second.
Hold on, let me finish my point here.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is that they didn't go far enough. They didn't leave the West Bank. Just answer this question.
No, let me finish my point first.
I will, but just answer me this when making your point. If Gaza had peacefully treated Israel, don't you think Israel would have then left the West Bank as well?
Okay, let me finish my point. You'll see the next point was that within Gaza, the people, the Gaza now, earlier there were small number of settlers who were living inside a very hostile population.
Right.
So it made a lot of sense for Israel to pull out from Gaza.
Okay.
So, but what's the situation now? What did Israel do? Israel is still in control of Gaza from outside. It's one of the Human Rights Watch calls it the largest prison in the world. The airspace is in control of Israel. The sea side is also in control of Israel. Nobody can go out or come into Gaza without Israeli approval. I mean, what kind of withdrawal is that?
So why not march in the streets? Why not support nonviolence? After all, it worked for Gandhi. It worked for Martin Luther King. Why not say, all right, Israel, we will stop attacking. Remember, Gaza right now is shooting missiles into Israeli cities, trying to kill civilians, hundreds of thousands of missiles. Why not say, we won't shoot missiles into Israel if you don't shoot missiles into us, and then march and say, look, we can be peaceful. We won't try to kill you. You don't try to kill us. I mean, why not act that way?
I agree with the measures which Palestinians are resorting to are really hopeless. But I'm not talking about what the reaction. I'm talking about the real action. The action is Israeli occupation. Now the reaction can be desperate, okay, which I don't agree with. I agree with you there. But I'm not talking about just the reaction. I'm talking about the initiation, the real problem, the core problem, which is Israeli military brutal occupation.
See, I appreciate your calling in. I wish you'd call in a bit earlier. We'd have had more time to talk. But I do appreciate your calling in. I hope you'll call in another time. In my view, when Israel leaves Gaza, you can't really call it occupation anymore. If you're saying Israel, why are you controlling the sea? Why are you controlling the borders? And then at the same time, and I could show videos of this, there are tunnels, and they're taking tons and tons of weapons into Gaza and using them to attack Israel. Well, when Gaza is being used to attack Israel, obviously Israel has to check the borders to stop the weapons flow into it. That makes sense to me. If Gaza would just, for 6 months, I'd prefer a year, for 1 year, stop attacking Israel, stop trying to kill Israeli civilians, saying, look, you can check our borders, put cameras there, there's no weapons going across it, then I think you would find that Israel would not only leave Gaza alone, but they would vacate the West Bank too. Give peace a chance. Let me just say, one more thing about Gaza I should mention. Of course, there's an Israeli soldier that's kidnapped there. They should release that soldier as well. Before we leave, I got 1 minute left. I do want to talk about a completely different topic. I want to talk about this because I now have a copy of it. People in Maryland know what this is. People in Virginia may not. This is what purports to be a Democratic sample ballot. You can see it right here. Democratic sample ballot. It says right here at the top. It is not a Democratic sample ballot. It was paid for by the governor of Maryland, Bob Ehrlich, and by Steele, the candidate for Senate, Republican candidate. If you look, it has right here Robert Ehrlich up here, U.S. Senator Michael Steele right here, and a whole list of Democrats underneath. It doesn't say they're Republicans. And in the front, it has 3 men who did not endorse Bob Ehrlich for governor. This was sent out to African Americans throughout Prince George's County to persuade them to vote Republican by tricking them into thinking it was the Democrats. Luckily, the poor African Americans, and they were poor, they came from homeless shelters in Philadelphia, the governor's wife did it, brought them down, but the voters of Prince George's County could not be fooled. This, my friends, is the kind of dirty trick that should never happen again in any election. And I wanted to call it out and show you the pamphlet. That's it for the Inside Scoop. We'll see you next week right here. This is Mark Levine signing off.